When hell is all you know, is it really worth acknowledging? Even in the raging shitstorm of frigid, war-torn seas, ears go numb to the spattering gunfire, eyes go blind to the dulling light of a scorching human brethren. When two predators are hunting, who is truly the wolf? Or does mutual cannibalism take over in Satan's homicidal asshole? Is anything worth remembering when this is your norm? A life of war is significant, yet still merely life. But does it pay to mourn the dead if you didn't know they were alive? Or when survival is all you know, on board the Mistress Greyhound? Well guys, I finally got to see Greyhound, which was the film I was most excited to see, especially since a lot of the other films that I was hyped for got pushed to way later dates, and I will say, I'm rather disappointed. I'm going to be giving you my Greyhound rating. Greyhound is a film directed by Aaron Schneider and starring Tom Hanks, the screenplay also being written by Tom Hanks, and it is about Naval Commander Ernest Krause, who leads a destroyer escort, the USS Greyhound, to basically take all of these European merchant ships to the Allies, and in the meantime his ship ends up running into a pack of German U-boats and has to fight him off throughout the course of this movie. Now, if there's anything good that this movie does, it's basically just in the way it depicts naval life and life at sea. But that's really it. The rest of this movie is rather lackluster and unmemorable. It's not that this movie is poorly made, it's well edited, it's well shot, and Tom Hanks, as usual, kills it in his role, but the writing leaves a lot to be desired, and it's a story, quite frankly, even if it was well written and well directed, that really isn't anything special. It's just your generic run-of-the-mill war story about the Battle of the Atlantic. You know, certain movies, certain war movies resonate in your head more that are maybe special human interest stories or really special moments of courage that stand out in the war just because of how unique they are, such as in Hacksaw Ridge and all of the actions that Desmond Doss does in that story. But this movie is just rather vanilla, rather dull. Let me give you an example of the entire course of dialogue in this film, with maybe the exception of one scene. Combat bridge. Bridge combat. Go ahead. Combat bridge. What is the bearing on our target? Bridge combat. Our target is bearing 240, 2 miles out. Combat bridge, roger. Target bearing 240, 2 miles out. Target acquired. And that's basically the entire dialogue of the film. This movie is basically wall-to-wall action, and there's nothing there to make the feel like you got paid off by the action. This was literally my reaction to everything that went on in this film. That's it. I mean, this movie, it's well made, it's well edited, CGI is great, Tom Hanks is good in his role, but even his character, left something to be desired. At the beginning of the movie, they establish that he has this love interest, and they end up exchanging gifts and whatnot, and he ends up, showing her this ticket to, come with him, and he says, "Can you please come with me, because I eventually want to ask you to marry me," and whatnot, and she says, "Look, as much as I want to have a life with you and whatnot, now's not the best time," and he ends up getting informed that he's become the commanding officer of a destroyer escort and whatnot, and that scene is somewhat replayed in his head throughout the film during certain times of tension, and that's probably the one piece in the movie that could have given the most audience payoff, and yet they don't go anywhere with it. They don't end the movie with him returning back to the woman he loves. They don't even give us one of those little synopses they have at the end of war movies that said, you know, Commander Ernst Krauss got out of the Navy, ended up marrying his wife and whatnot. It took me having to research this film to figure out that he ends up surviving the war and ends up getting married to her. And that would have been something nice to have learned in this film. The only thing we learn at the end of the synopsis in this film is the number of people that died, which, don't get me wrong, I don't want to downgrade any of the actions, any of the brave actions, or any of the people that died in the Battle at the Atlantic, but there's just some war events that are just so rather mundane and rather just more day-to-day life within the war that really it doesn't lend itself to being an interesting movie. And the Battle of the Atlantic, at least the way it was portrayed in this movie, came off to me as one of those times in the war where, yes, you know, there were courageous men and women, and there were, you know, moments where a lot of people died, and probably some tense moments for those who were actually in it, but there really wasn't anything significant about it. There really wasn't any special human interest story that got me vested in this film, and because of that, I'm gonna rate Greyhound background noise. This movie is well made, well edited, but overall rather dull and didn't really leave me at the edge of my seat like a lot of other notable war movies have, like Hacksaw Ridge, Saving Private Ryan, even Dunkirk, or even Midway. Midway, while the CGI wasn't as well done, and there were times in the story where it was wonky, at least because of the focus it had on the characters, and because of how significant Midway was to turning the tides of war for the US in the Pacific, at least that lends itself to a movie. This, to me, didn't really lend itself to a movie, and it's gonna be one I don't remember here in a week. Anyway, that wraps up my review, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please stay tuned for more content. Thank you.